Hey kids, it's Jurassic James, and it's Jurassic James Explains. We're looking at I always have trouble saying this one's name. Olorotitan, which means swan, giant swan, basically. This is from actually easternmost part of Russia. It's a hadrosaur, particularly a lambeosaurine. And one thing to point out is that they're very rare. Now, the big deal is, you may not know this, but there are different markets for dinosaur toys. And usually what I deal with are American stuff, Carnegie, Safari, but there are other sellers around the world, so this is not a model you have a lot of. In fact, my first one was this guy here. This is the, if I remember correctly, the 2008 Procon. So much like Collect A, Procon will often do varied species, unusual species. So I remember when I first saw it, I snatched it up because it was like, wow, here it is. This is something that's different. The idea here is that we often see hadrosaurs in North America, and there are some in Asia as well, but they're not as popular in the U.S. So that's why for me it's a big deal. Which is why I'm excited that in Prehistoric Planet they actually show these guys, which is really cool. I will say on that note, Prehistoric Planet, I like that. Although they didn't explain everything, I like the fact that they showed dinosaurs in different environments, different conditions. They weren't all just in swamps, right? So it's generally speaking, this guy, the smaller model, the Procon one, has the 3 toes, the tall neural spines. The crest is often referred to as a hatchet. It's like an axe head that's pointed backwards. Most hadrosaur stuff either go kind of forward or sends up. That kind of makes it stand out a little bit. But overall, it has the 3 fingers here, and then there's it's not showing little pinky. Yeah, I don't see any pinky there, which, they walk on the 3, have the pinky on the side. But overall, really great model. I mean, again, it's the only one I had until recently, so that's why it stood out to me, but it's not a well-known animal. Now, that being said, let's get to the PNSO one. And as usual, the name is Ivan, which they named them. I wonder if it's called Ivan because it's from Russia. There's no way of knowing that for sure. It's just speculation on my part. But we're seeing here with the official scissors Jurassic James, trying to preserve the box at all costs. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and open the side here, and it's the same rule with all PNSO models. There is a book here, and the book tells you stories of Earth, so kind of interesting little write-ups here and there. Okay, a lot about different companies and stuff. So, see, oh, there it is. And as usual, there is the, not obligatory, they just do it because it's really cool, the poster of the figure that you now own. So there that is. Look at that. Appreciate the centerfold of Russia in the late Cretaceous period. So again, my Lambeosaurus had plastic covering, the Cretaceous did not, so I find that interesting. In the meantime, I will keep this in order in case of any heavy moving, or who knows what the future will hold. Just put that to back. Oh my. Oh dear, it's a little stand. Which I think I know why. I'll tell you in a minute. I can get this back together. Appreciate it. So one thing to point out, I've noticed, I mean, they call it a tripodal stance. Hadrosaurs, as you know, they walk on 2 legs. Oh, sorry, they run on 2 legs. They can walk on 4. Based on footprints we've seen. Not this one to other hadrosaurs, but the idea is that it's rearing up. Now, my first concern when I put it down was it almost tilted over, so its balance is somewhat off, so they gave you this little stand here to help it, I believe. And again, the idea is that, I guess for display purpose, you don't want it falling over. If the toy falls, this paint's scratched. Now, unlike my other PNSO hadrosaurs, this is a different color pattern, implying different environment, usually in general, but again, I like that hatchet, that axe right there. It has 18 neck vertebrae, which is, I think 15 was the record before, so it's the most vertebra of a hadrosaur. Now, again, that's also probably lending to it becoming swan lizard, because it's a long, narrow neck. It doesn't mean it had a huge long neck, but it's just that it has longer neck than we expected. I like the way it's okay. So again, 3 toes, the claws, the hoof, the hand has that little kind of hoof look to it. Basically, you can kind of see that compared to my human hand. Again, very narrow, thin snout. I like the skull. I like how the skull looks. This is really cool. If you don't know, when I draw my paleo art, my lower level paleo art, I always start with skulls because that sets the tone for the animal to me. And this one's really great. And I know a younger, a 10-year-old James would have had the adult and the baby. Remember, with hadrosaurs, the crests do not develop into their adults, and the ones we've done studies on to show development over time, those hadrosaurs usually don't have a crest at all until they're about halfway adult size. My analogy for this is how, particularly for human males, you have a smooth face all your life, and then you get to a certain age, somewhere between 11 and 18, and you start growing facial hair. Well, think of the hadrosaur crest like that. They don't have them because there's new to display because you're too young, you're still developing, and all of a sudden you get to the age where you can reproduce, and they grow the crest down and say, look, I'm here, I've arrived. It's like a debutante's fall for hadrosaurs. So as far as family tree goes, his closest relative is not in Asia, it is Cretaceous in North America. I will point out that it's interesting that in the late Cretaceous period, so again we have the Mesozoic, the Jurassic, Cretaceous. Within the Cretaceous, there's early and late. Within late, there's subdivisions, the last being Maastrichtian, before that being Campanian. What's interesting is that in North America, a lot of these crested hadrosaurs were in the Campanian, and they pretty much die out by the Maastrichtian, the very end. And they were replaced by the crested hadrosaur, particularly Edmontosaurus replaces them. What we see in Asia is that the crested hadrosaurs they stay into the Maastrichtian. So that's interesting. It's interesting to see that trend. The next question for a paleontologist is what caused it would happen. And one of the ideas is that we do see the what's called the Great Western Interior Seaway, the giant ocean. How American that the name is it's the Great Western Interior Seaway. Often called the Zuni Sea by some people. It's cut in North America in half, so we have all these hadrosaurs and crests and things. By the Maastrichtian, that sea drains out in North America, so we start seeing different environmental conditions. So we're probably thinking that somewhere in Asia, it's similar to the late in Cretaceous. In Asia, looks like the second to late Cretaceous of America. So again, we're trying to figure out how the geology, the conditions of the environment, make affecting animals and their evolutionary trends, right? Now this is a Parasaurolophus figure, but as far as its ecology goes, there's some other hadrosaurs, but there's a hadrosaur named Charnosaurus, which essentially looks like Parasaurolophus. It's in Asia, so it's an example again of either convergent evolution or common ancestry. But the idea is that it would have shared an environment with something like that, just like these guys had Parasaurolophus itself. At least the Labiosaurus did in its environment. So again, not that this has become a commercial for PNSO. Obviously, whatever figure you can afford, go with it. But these guys, it's like that. They make me smile. They're just really cool figures, and they aren't heavy. They're not like heavy, but they're not light. They're not hollow. If they are, it's not. You can't really tell. But again, it's just for me when I look at the skeletons when I'm studying anatomy. I've never seen this level of detail and work in my collection alone. Not to say that everyone here is amazing, but it's just something that is really, if you don't know, there's models going that way, and there's models going that way, and then turning that way over there. Maybe one day I'll change the camera so you can see both of them, I don't know. In the meantime, in between time, thank you for tuning in, and look up this really cool swan titan, this giant animal from Mother Russia. That being said, see you guys later. Please tune in. Share, subscribe, like, comment, all the YouTube things, and I'll see you later.